I'm going to show you a hugel mound that I put in about 2 years ago that's coming along pretty nicely, and I'll talk about how it was constructed and show you some of the different elements that are growing in it. When I first started trying to do this, I actually didn't do my research. One of the mistakes I made initially was taking a bunch of woody material and just sticking it on top of the ground and not really tightly arranging it. So it was very crisscrossed and kind of jackstrawed. And what that winds up doing is it creates a lot of voids when you cover it with soil. There's going to be a lot of air pockets in those voids. And as the root structures grow down into that, it'll essentially stop their growth. It will air prune them in place. And that's a mistake that I made on the first few mounds that I put in. But that was something I had to learn through trial and error. And of course, I did a little bit more research and started to develop them in a much different way. And that's what this is. And I want to show you and talk about how this was constructed. This is a mound that was put in my lawn about 2 years ago. And as you can see, it's about a stone's throw from my front door. And so it's aligned very nicely in this corridor, which I travel every day. And so I'm able to look at this in essentially my zone 1. And the way this was constructed was I excavated out a pretty large trench and moved the soil aside. Then I started with a collection of different heavy organic material that I have stockpiled on my property in the form of downed limbs and logs and such. All of the material that has been set aside gets placed back on top of the woody material, forming the basis for the mound itself. As it breaks down, it's going to become very sponge-like, and it's going to help to retain moisture within this mound, thereby reducing the amount of watering that I'm going to need to do. But it's also going to release all of the nutrients contained within that material, which is going to help to feed not only the plants, but it's also going to feed the soil life and the microorganisms that we're trying to encourage in this space. Let me just take you on a little walk around and show you some of the things that are actually growing. Every plant in this guild is here with some form of intentionality, and it's designed to support a central figure, in this case being a peach tree. One of the things that they have to be in order to remain in here is to have food and or medicinal value. There's a number of different functions that these plants serve in support of that central figure, one of which is drawing in beneficial insects, both from the standpoint of pollinators as well as predatory insects. Another really important aspect is I've planted some things in here that are very aromatic, and those will help to draw away from that central figure and confuse things like culinary herbs, which I have surrounding the base of that tree, will provide that aromatic confusion. Another really important aspect is in soil building, and I planted things in here with that in mind, hoping that they will spread out and just provide that cover naturally. The southern end of this bed, there's some bunching onion on either side of this comfrey, and this is a bunch of seed that was cast in from daikon radish that matured this past spring, full well knowing that it would reseed itself and come back again this fall. These ones are tightly packed in here, but we've got some daikons growing in a lot of different areas right up front. This is some marjoram, very great aromatic, great culinary herb. This is a Jerusalem artichoke. A number of ever-bearing strawberries, and this is an ever-bearing strawberry that is notorious for sending out a lot of runners, which is what I wanted in this space. And those runners are going to be sent out, and then they'll start new plants. This one's already taken root here. Follow that out, and there's another runner, another plant down here that's already attached itself in the ground, and that will continue to spread out. More comfrey, more strawberry. Here's a closer look at the base of that, where it's going to start to send out roots right there. But if I position this in here, scratch up the ground, just stick it down in there, that will find its way. Most cases you don't even have to do that. I just didn't want it as close to the edge, so I'm tucking it back up in there. Globe artichoke that was started from seed, where one of the thistle seed heads was cut off from a plant that actually resides over in a bed over there. and was brought into here last year, and it's established itself over here. That's actually some potato. Some more potato right there. More daikon radish. This is English thyme. This is an herb that we can utilize a few feet from our front door, but it's going to provide that aromatic confusion, and it's begun to spread out quite well, which is helping to provide this cover for the soil. More potato. Here's some chocolate mint that is doing exactly what I want it to do. However, this is a plant that will have to be managed, or it will continually just spread out and take over. But it's doing exactly what I want it to do at this point. They're still actually producing for us, and it's middle of September. One of the purposes of these aromatic plants is that they can help to mask or disguise the smell from certain plants that are going to be targeted by a particular pest species. So as in the instance of a tomato plant that is notoriously, or at least on my property, it can get hammered with tomato hornworms. I've had a good deal of success placing things like tomatoes in and amongst all of these aromatic plants. And so we've got not only the English thyme, but we've got the chocolate mint on this side. And moving over to the right side, we've got some yarrow. Yarrow's quite aromatic. It's kind of a smellier plant, and it's a great pollinator. It produces an abundant amount of these tiny little colored clusters of flowers that in the springtime and throughout the summer are notorious for bringing in those predatory insects that we might want as a beneficial. So things like hoverflies are going to be drawn into this. Just different predatory wasps are going to come in, and they'll just be in an abundance all and around this, which is going to help to support targeting pests that might come and attack either your central figure or other things that you have in the area. We've also got some bee balm back here, which is quite aromatic as well. So all of this has a function in here, not only from the standpoint of, in this case, being medicinal. One of the things that we do with this yarrow, in addition to just having it for its flowering capability but its medicinal value, is that we will harvest this and then we'll run it through our food dryer, and it makes a really great blood stop powder, a natural anticoagulant. And so great plant to have, very easy to grow, very easy to dig up and place in other places. Here's an example of something you could just dig right up and put somewhere else, and that'll just continue to grow. Bunching onion. Here's some more globe artichoke. Another element that I have growing in here is sunflower, and this is great when it's flowering to bring in bees for pollination. But as it matures, these seed heads can either be harvested for our use, but in most cases I just leave them right in place, and the birds, the wildlife, will be drawn into these, and it'll give them a ready-made bird feeder, and what they don't eat will fall back to the ground and reseed itself right in place. Spanish lavender, some sweet alyssum, and this is more of that Albion everbearing strawberry, which this was the parent plant that has sent out runners and reestablished itself here, as well as following these runners out. It's dropping and reestablishing new plants along the way. My next move is to bring in about a half a yard of compost from the chicken yard and top dress this entire bed, and then I'll be introducing some seed probably middle of October-ish, which will be like a 10 seed cover crop mix, planting it in those bare areas, and hoping to introduce some things with nitrogen fixing properties, as well as just providing additional cover to this soil by not only bringing in things that are going to be flowering in the spring, but maybe some things that we can harvest as well. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.